For this animation, we're going to need to bring in a Photoshop document. So I want you to navigate over to this project window here and just double click and bring in Kscope. We'll just double click on that. We're going to make sure the import kind is set to composition cropped layers, merge layer styles into footage, and just click OK. All right. I want you to double click on Kscope and make sure on your window it's set up to fit up to 100%. Also, your resolution, you can drop this down to maybe a third, so this will fit a little bit better. So resolution is a third, our view is fit up to 100%. All right. Now you'll notice that this is a large file. This is larger than broadcast quality. It's at 2000 by 2000. And the reason is we're going to want to travel across this, so I made the Photoshop document a little bit bigger. We have 6 layers. If I turn these eyeballs off, I'm going to do this one at a time, you'll see we have a water layer, we have a red flower, a shell layer, a white flower, a pink flower, and a sun layer. Okay? I want you to go ahead and add an adjustment layer to this. So layer new adjustment layer. And we're going to rename the adjustment layer, so just hit enter or return. And let's name this Kaleidascope adjust. Okay, and we're going to add an effect to the Kaleidascope adjust layer, and since it's an adjustment layer, it will affect all of the layers below this. So I want you to find the effect, stylize, where are you, CC Kaleido. Okay, and immediately you'll see that we're getting a kaleidoscope effect. Okay, so let's just set this up. The first thing we want to do, we'll do this by layers. So I want to start with just the water layer first. So if we turn off layers 2 to 6, we'll see we only have Kaleido adjust and we only have water. And we're going to change some of the settings in the effect panel. So the first thing is we're going to change the mirroring to starlish. All right. And we're also going to change the center and the rotation over time. So let's set keyframes for those now. On the center, let's drag this out to start about here. Okay. And I'm going to type U so you can see these settings here. If you want to type those in, let's say 600 by 1390. Okay. Let's go to the end of the timeline. I'm hitting the end key to get there. I'm going to drag my center up towards the top till I get something interesting. Maybe around here. If you wanted to type in some numbers, 1500 by 840. Okay? And on the rotation, I just want you to type in 1. So if we drag, you can see that this will change over time. And what happens is wherever the center of the Kaleido adjust layer or the Kaleido effect, it's actually picking up the information from the water background. And this is allowing it to change. And the rotation is actually cycling this little shape in here, giving us this nice kaleidoscope effect. Okay? I'm going to Control Z because I didn't want that keyframe in there. I'm going to collapse this, and I'll drag my time marker back to the beginning. And let's bring in red flower. Okay, so right now, by turning on the red flower layer, nothing is happening. And the reason is because Kaleido adjust, the target or the center is actually here, while red flower is up here. All you have to do is drag red flower down until you get something that you're happy with. So let's say, well, that's pretty nice. Let's say something like that. I'm going to hit P for position and lock that in by clicking on the stopwatch, thus creating a keyframe and allowing the position property to change over time. I'm also going to put in some numbers, so if you guys want to put these numbers in, let's say 690 on the X, 1150 on the Y. So this is our side to side, and this is our top to bottom position. All right, let's go to the end of the timeline. I'm going to grab the red flower, change its positioning, move it around till I get something that I like. Let's say somewhere around here. Okay. Let's set some numbers in. And I'm zeroing these out just so they're a little bit easier to remember for you guys. So let's say 1350 by 920. Okay. And if I drag on the timeline, you can see this changes over time. Right? I'm going to go to 5 seconds and actually take the red flower and drag it out a little bit to try and get a little bit more blue. So let's see, maybe around here. I'm also going to change the kaleidoscope effect on the size and spread this out a little bit. So let's say my size is 40. Okay. That's looking nice. All right, let's turn on the eyeball for the shell layer. Move that around. And I think I'm going to change the blend mode for this. So instead of a normal blend mode, let's try a screen. So this way it lightens everything that's below it. And again, just move this around till you're happy with what you get. I'm going to go about there. I'm going to set a position keyframe for that. So I'm just going to hit the letter P. I'm going to go to the end of the timeline, hitting the end key to get there. I'm going to move the shell up. To about here. Okay. And if we want some numbers to type in, at the beginning you can type in 340 for the X position, and let's say 1345 for the Y position. At the end of the timeline, let's say 1910 for the X and 520 for the Y. Okay. So that's looking good so far. Let's collapse the shell. Turn on the white flower layer. I'm going to go to the beginning of the timeline. I'm going to hit P for position again. Enable the position to accept keyframes. Move this down. And again, you got to move this around and just decide what you want it to look like. I like that. So, some numbers. We'll put 700 for the X, 1460 for the Y. We'll go to the end of the timeline, and we'll move this around again. So, just grabbing that white flower. Somewhere around there. So, for the X, 1410, and for the Y, 320. Okay. I'll drag this around, see what we're getting. That looks pretty cool. Right here, this is a little bit too red for me, so I'm going to go to around, what was that, 815. I'm going to grab the white flower and actually just drag that in a little bit and just break up some of that red. Drag back and forth. Okay, looking good so far. I'm going to select the pink flower, turn the eyeball on for that, make sure I'm at the beginning of the timeline, hit P for position, enable the position property to accept keyframes. So we're basically just repeating our actions over and over again. You know, it's hard to decide which way you want to go with these things sometimes. I think I like that. Okay, so let's say 570 for the X, 1130 for the Y. We'll go to the end of the timeline. We'll grab pink flower, drag the flower up, moving around till you find something you're happy with. I think I'm going to go and just add a little bit of pink, just a little subtle amount there. Just drag through. I'm pretty happy with the way it's going so far. Okay, let's collapse that. Turn the sun layer on. Again, P for position. Enable that property to accept keyframes. Grab that, move it around. Now this one's a little bit different because it is actually a solid object and has no tones. I want you to look at this for a second. So it's a solid vector sort of artwork. So I'm actually going to change this a little bit by taking it to an add property or an add blend mode here, so it actually brightens up what's under it. So let's just move that around. There, so it's just subtly in there. I'm going to go to the end. Let's move that around here, see what we have. Right about there. So let's look at some numbers here. So at the beginning of the timeline, let's say it's at 10, 10 for the X and 12, 12 for the Y. Go to the end of the timeline, 12, 12 for the X, and 280 for the Y. Okay, so I've set up all my numbers here. Now I want to make sure when this animates that the velocity is for the keyframes doesn't pause or look erratic. So I'm going to select all of the layers and I'm going to type the letter U. So these keyframes in the middle could cause some problems, okay, with their velocity or their speed as they change position. So I'm going to just hold down Control and click on them. And this is going to enable them to have a continuous velocity keyframe. If we look at this in the graph editor, I'm going to undo this for a second so you can see this. If I select position for red flower and select the graph editor, you can see this is the velocity as it changes direction. But if I hold down Control and just click on that keyframe, go back to the graph editor, you'll see it's smoothing out the velocity. Okay? So I'm going to do that for any center keyframes. Okay? Let's select all of these. The next step is to actually take this 2000 by 2000 composition and pre-compose this into a smaller comp size. So, with all the layers selected, I'm going to go Layer, Pre-compose, and let's just call this Kaleida Parts. Okay. I'm going to change the composition settings to NTSC DV. Duration, 10 seconds is fine. I'm going to set the resolution to full. Click OK. All right. So this is the Kaleidascope background. I'm going to start with the beginning of the timeline. Hit P for position, set a keyframe. R for rotation, set a keyframe. I'm going to type the letter U, and that's going to show me all of my keyframes. I'm going to grab the kaleidoscope and just bring it to one corner. And let's take the rotation to 45 degrees. So, and I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you can see this. So I'm going to butt it up to the upper left-hand corner. Go to the end of the timeline. Take the rotation to negative 45. And move that to the bottom. Drag on that and see what we're going to get. So we'll just slowly pan across. Maybe we'll move that to the top. So it's more at an angle. You see I'm having a little bit of problem there. That's fine. I'm just going to go and I'm holding down my space bar. I'm going to grab these little Bezier controllers here and just have this make a little bit of a curve so it fills that area. Okay. Put that back up to fit up to 100%. Might even scale this as it's going. So let's type S, that our scale property, go to the end, and I'm going to scale this to 50%. Move it back into place. Looks like I'm going to have to adjust this a little bit. Move this smaller so we can see. Grab these handles, curve them a little bit. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, so once we're done, we can set this up to render. So composition, make movie, increase my screen size here. I'm going to go under lossless and make sure that I'm set to just RGB. I don't need any alpha channels. My color is going to be set to pre-multiplied. I'm going to click OK. I'll name this flower background. Hit save, hit render, and we're ready to go. Okay. Hope you guys have fun with this one. If you come up with anything interesting, shoot me over a quick time. Okay. Thanks. Bye.